Oh, just a moment. We are getting started. We are going to record this for folks who couldn't make it. All right. Go ahead, Cole.
Well, thank you, Liz. Appreciate that. So I'm Cole Bitzenberg, Community Food Access Manager for the Skagit Food Distribution Center, big part of community action. So my staff out here, we're pretty small but tight-knit team. So we've got Quinn McMahon and Nolan Johnson, Andy Garrett, Lori Bergerstock, and Tracy Monteron, who coordinates our volunteers. And I see some of our volunteers up here too, so happy to have them. They're a big part of what we do out here. So that's our staff, our people, but don't know if you want to dig in. What's next?
I'm just going to keep pitching you softball questions, Cole, and we'll do this conversationally. So why does the Food Distribution Center exist? What was going on before the Food Distribution Center happened? And then how did Community Action partner with our county commissioners and county government to address that need?
Yeah, so before the Food Distribution Center was established, it was a lot of kind of hodgepodge independent work by the food banks, kind of having to struggle by themselves. And there was a bit more of a competition aspect at the time too. So you'd have to kind of either go out and find the food or gather together like in a parking lot to get a semi from, say, Food Lifeline or Northwest Harvest to kind of break it out. And so kind of less than ideal, I guess, is a good way to phrase it.
Most of the food banks at that time in the county were all volunteer run. Is that right?
Yeah,
there were a few that were staffed, but most of them were.
Yeah, so it was very, very shoestring, if you will.
What's Food Lifeline and Northwest Harvest?
Yeah, so there's, oh man, alphabet soup is definitely in the world of food. So Food Lifeline and Northwest Harvest, those are the two large food banks that serve the whole state. So they're independent nonprofits. Food Lifeline's a Feeding America affiliate. So Feeding America is a nationwide food bank nonprofit that has partners in all the states. So those are the two big players in terms of trying to source donations, byproduct.
So they have big amounts of food and they get to counties through food distribution centers. And so what you were saying is part of the need was our hardworking food bank partners were working harder than they had to because there was no food distribution center. But there was one in Whatcom County and one in Snohomish County. What was the need that the community was seeing? What happened after we started the food distribution center in terms of the amount of food getting out to people?
Yeah, the need was pretty much infrastructure. So having that capacity to bring in the food and aggregate it and distribute it out. So we had those models to follow both in Whatcom and Snohomish most proximately. And basically, yeah, having a building where you could receive, store product, and divvy it out. That way it's not a mad rush and you have that extra support piece. So with that, you saw impact immediately after there's a big grant that got pulled together with the county as the lead and Community Action partnering in on it too, to build the dry warehouse, which is what established the distribution center as a site. And so with that,
wait. Dry warehouse. What is a dry warehouse?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You store product in your different temperature zones. So that's kind of the way we talk about it. So dry, cooler, freezer are like three key storage zones.
So it's basically a big warehouse for shelf-stable dry food goods.
Yeah, it's just all these things that are automatic. It's kind of like hard to wrap my head around sometimes how we talk about it. But yeah, that gave us that capacity because we didn't previously have that in the county. And so that was the key step.
What year was this?
So 2006 is when the distribution center kind of concept came about. And then I believe it was 2008, 2009 when Community Action started hosting staff full-time at this site here in Cedar Woolley.
So You were saying there was an immediate impact. So we have the dry storage and eventually the cool storage, the refrigerator and the freezer. And just for folks who haven't been there, these are refrigeration and freezer units that you can drive a forklift into, right?
Yeah,
They're big.
they're pretty good size. I think one is the freezer's 40 feet by 60 feet. And then the walk-in cooler is, I believe, 30 by 40. So we're bigger than my house, that's for sure.
And the impact, I might have my numbers wrong here, but in the first couple of years, we were able to get 300% more food to food bank families, food bank customers. Is that right? And by we, I mean the county as a whole with all of our food bank partners.
Yep. Yeah, just upped the amount that each individual food bank was able to order through those partners like Food Lifeline and Northwest Harvest. So it could all just come in versus being very limited to either what they could fit in their own vehicles or what would fit on a single semi to get sent up here. So that just, more than doubled the capacity in the community.
Well, what about the quality of the food? Because a lot of these smaller nonprofit organizations or churches that essentially were food pantries, they didn't really have a lot of storage space. So what about fresh produce? What about milk and proteins?
Yeah, having that cooler and freezer capacity up to that aspect. So you could have more produce that's coming in and being stored in a safe space, because a lot of those smaller food banks, they didn't have that capacity for storage, and many still don't. So that's a big piece of what is able to be done is get fresh produce, whether it's from one of those big partners or from some of our great local farms that partner with us. We're able to have that fresh aspect. And then like you're saying, frozen protein is a big one. So we can store that for much longer term and store it on behalf of all the food banks too. So they don't have to worry about like, oh, I was able to get this great donation of chicken. Where do I go with it? We'll pop it in our freezer.
You can store things
until it's ready.
If a food bank sources something on their own, the food distribution center can store it for them until they need it.
Yep, we do both ways, and we have other partners that are able to take advantage of this capacity too. So the senior centers, like their meal prep, we store frozen protein in our freezer for them to boost their capacity as well.
So what I'm hearing is, number one, it's getting food to families. Number two, it's capacity for the community. It's a part of the infrastructure for the community. And I'm going to ask you about a couple of the other lines of business that the Food Distribution Center has, but there is a question about the past. So before we go to where we are now and where we're going in the future, Jason asks, back before the Food Distribution Center, did the National Guard help distribute food in Skagit County, or were there other ways that need for a distribution hub? Were there different ways that were tried to get that done?
Right. So prior to the distribution center, not so much, but speaking directly to National Guard and how they've helped the county in the past, we wound up seeing them step in during OSO landslide recovery. So we were the food route through Skagit to supply Darrington side of the slide. So it had National Guard helping with that. A lot of, many hands makes light work. That definitely was a big impact there. And then most recently during COVID, there was a pretty good period. So where we were able to have WSDA get that activation of the National Guard. So we had them cited at Helping Hands food banks. And so they were a good support piece because National Guard then came with trucks too. So we could make sure we were moving product really quickly to respond as fast as possible where that need would pop up during COVID, because it was a substantial increase in need, that's for sure.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. I want to hear some numbers, but I just want to make it clear that so the Skagit Food Distribution Center is helping our food bank partners deal with an everyday crisis, which is hungry families in Skagit County who are seeking food on a day-to-day basis. And we are providing a part of that backbone in the emergency management system. So we partner with the county and others in disasters, like even during flooding and things along those lines. So when the Snohomish Food Distribution Center could not get to Darrington because of the Oso mudslide, our food distribution center got that food coming through us, sending more trucks than we normally send, that type of thing. And then what about the pandemic? So what was the need in terms of how much food was going in and out of our food distribution center before the pandemic, at the peak of the pandemic, and what's it like now? How are you seeing the need for food shifting?
Yeah, it definitely shifted in a big way. So prior to the pandemic, we would see usually around that 250,000, 300,000 pounds of food moving through the distribution center. And with the pandemic, that ramped up very quickly. So I think it peaked with about 750,000 pounds of food moving through the distribution center every month. And then kind of leveled off during the second year of the pandemic at around 500,000 pounds a month.
So we're still doing more than before.
Yep, we've come down a little bit through winter, but with the way the economy is at the moment, we've been seeing a bit of an uptick very recently. So we're kind of preparing for increased need with cost of food and everything else.
Well, we've got some really smart people in the conversation here today, and Shelley just sent me a private message. She's jumping to the punchline of how can people help? And the question she has is, what location would be the best to direct individuals who wish to make food donations?
Really, it's any and all is kind of what I always say. So the distribution center, we're great in terms of we've got that capacity piece. We're here 5 days a week, normal business hours and all that. So if you're not able to make a direct connection with your local food bank in your own community, we're here and we can support any food drives or donations as well. But I'd say, yep, reaching out to the food bank in your community is great, because that way you can find out exactly how they need to be supported. And then generally we're here as a support piece as well. That way, if you're not able to connect, say there's a small food pantry in your community that's only open 1 day a week because it's volunteer run, then you could still come by here and be like, hey, I'd like to contribute to this food bank, and we'll make sure it gets to them.
I'm going to share where you are. So this is the Skagit Food Distribution Center website. I put the link in the chat. And then you're in Cedro Woolley, right there by the Les Schwab roundabout. And so you go around the roundabout and kind of flip back around. And you, drop off times are what times, Monday through Friday?
We always have receiving staff available 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday.
So our colleague Emily made this really cool graphic that shows what you were describing, that you work with groups like Food Lifeline. Those food banks put their orders in Food Lifeline and other distributors, Northwest Harvest, and it goes into the food distribution center, and then volunteers like Craig unload those trucks and repalletize the food for the food banks. And so we've got a great video, and we'll send the link out to participants of Cole walking through and showing how here's a pallet for Helping Hands, here's a pallet for Neighbors in Need. And all of the different food banks have their own areas in the dry storage and cold storage. And then, so it gets out to food banks and food pantries, also hot meal programs, as well as seniors and disabled. What is that project about?
Right. So generally, like where you're talking about earlier, Liz, most of our work is, it's categorized in the nonprofit world as indirect, because we're supporting those who are supporting people directly. So we're not typically the ones handing food to a person, because we're handing food to a food bank. That senior and disabled part is where we do have that direct service, where we're handing food to a person in need. And so part of it's because it's a federally supported program. So you have to have the contractability with the government, because you're receiving food directly from them. So you're almost like a state agency. So luckily, Community Action's got capacity administratively to handle the back end of that, but that allows us to serve those seniors that aren't getting enough food, aren't getting enough communication and contact out there. And Craig, he's one of our volunteers that delivers out there. And by the way, we're always looking for more volunteer delivery drivers. We'd love to have people join us for that aspect. But yeah,
it's another one of our punchlines.
Yep, it's a very, very important program and a very critical need in our community, those seniors that are a little underserved.
And so these are seniors who are mostly homebound or probably can't get out to a food bank on their own, and they're getting a box of food bank food. And one of the important things about it is that the Food Distribution Center also has a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. Tell us about, that's one of the inputs on this chart here, is that local farms are putting into the Food Distribution Center, and that's also getting out to food banks, the senior programs, the hot meal programs. So tell us about the Food Distribution Center's relationship with farms.
Yeah, so it's been a long relationship. I mean, as long as I've been with Community Action, Distribution Centers partnered with local farms. And why not? I mean, we're in Skagit. We've got wonderful agriculture here. So it's phenomenal that we're able to get some of that and get out to folks that could use it. So we're in all sorts of sizes of farm, from itty bitty organic grower that's maybe doing one market a week or something like that. We're working with them, whether it's donations, even gleaning, going harvesting something they're not able to harvest, or purchasing. So we actually do a fair bit of purchasing to try to support our local ag, from those small growers on up to our much larger growers. Like, we'll get direct potato donations. It's pretty amazing the way agriculture supports its own community.
So we actually at Community Action do contract with local farms so that they can count on that. They grow food specifically for us. So we purchase food from them, but because of those relationships, when a farmer has an excess of a product, they donate it. So what's that ratio? How much do we buy versus how much is given to us?
Actually, let me think about that. It varies. We've actually been kind of growing the purchasing side of the program just due to like great donations and availability and investment in the community, but it's usually around like 30-ish% purchased, and the rest is donations or gleans, harvests, however you want to characterize it. That ratio has been growing with a little bit more purchasing every year, just because we've had more and more purchase power, which is awesome, because then we can get those really, really sought after products like tomatoes, peppers, tomatillos, things that are pretty expensive. You might not get donated, even berries.
Well, and let's talk about tomatillos. I know that you've worked with some food banks and with WSU and other partners to identify culturally appropriate fruits and vegetables, culturally appropriate foods to purchase. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, it really is just kind of, it's like a known need. So we're always chatting with the different food banks, seeing what they could use for the folks that are visiting them. And so we just kind of have gathered over years this anecdotal information that shows what's really highly desired and relevant to all the different populations. And so we'll do our best to source that. Like, I feel like that's the most just way that you can kind of feed a person, is get them what they know, need, and want.
So I did want to just note, since Shelley asked about donating food, we also like to remind folks, whether it's a donation to Community Action or to one of our food bank partners, your dollars go a lot further than donations of food itself, because with $100, our Food Distribution Center can purchase 700 pounds of food, which is almost 600 meals. So our dollars, if we're making a donation, go a lot further than actually just going to the store and buying a can of food ourselves. I did want to show this awesome map that Emily made. All of these red dots are the food banks and food pantries that Community Action serves. And it's not just Skagit County. We've got a couple in Snohomish, Island County, and now San Juan counties. And is that also a function of that capacity that we've built?
Yeah. So it's kind of a new piece for us to be directly supporting San Juan County. So prior to actually this fall is just when they joined our organization. They had been working with the Whatcom redistributing organization, the Bellingham Food Bank, because when they got on board with all those programs, the distribution center in Skagit County didn't exist. So that was the nearest location for them. And so with the pandemic, it showed the strain of those supply lines and how just even a little bit further going up to Whatcom County really stressed them getting food during the pandemic. So that's what instigated the relationship to be formed with the distribution center in San Juan County. And so far it's been working great. They have really invested attitude in their community. They want to do well. So it's awesome.
Well, we're going to turn to WIC next, but we talked about the food getting to food banks, getting to seniors, getting to meal programs also, and the relationships with farms. We didn't mention, but there is also a backpack program that the Food Distribution Center does with which school district?
Yeah, we actually do that with the Burlington School District. So
Okay.
their Rotary reached out to us and we're like, yeah, logically, why not? We'll get you food you need. And so they engage with different groups of kids and stuff. I can't remember the service organization, but like a club at the school. So our high school students wind up helping pack up these backpacks for all the different elementary schools.
Oh, that's great. Well, we talked about food, we talked about farming. There's also funding. How does the Food Distribution Center help get more money into the community for our partners?
Right, yeah, much like I was mentioning with our senior food, where it requires that administrative support piece. So Community Action has that team that can then support passing through funding. So we every year pass through between $90,000 and $160,000 of direct reimbursable funding to our food banks in Skagit County. So that's through the Washington State Department of Agriculture and their program. It's called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which is funding for the food banks. And so we're able to kind of do that support piece because we have great finance-minded people in Community Action that can help support us there. So that's
this is where we do a round of applause for Community Action's finance team, the unsung heroes of getting services done in Skagit County. They are amazing. And then finally, we couldn't do this alone. I'm looking at the numbers here, and it looks like since 2020, since the start of the pandemic, the Food Distribution Center has been able to get over almost $540,000 in local donor support and foundations and things along those lines. So just really want to do a shout out to everyone who makes this happen, including the volunteers. So we're going to move on to WIC. Thank you, Cole. And for the folks in the audience, we will have some time for Q&A at the end if we don't catch all the questions in the chat. But I'm going to ask Isabella, can you keep your eye on that? So if there's something important, we'll come back to it. Thank you. So Wendy from our Women, Infant, and Children program, will you please introduce yourself and say a little bit about your team? You've got such a big team. I don't know if you can mention them all by name, so maybe just do a shout out.
Well, we do have a big team, and I'm Wendy, and I've been here for a while. WIC was started way back in the 70s, and it was started to provide nutrients for periods of growth, pregnant women, and young children and babies. And things like protein. You couldn't give protein to people in a pill. You needed to provide food for them. And it has done that well for nearly 50 years. It's still going strong. And it's added a couple of more. It's become a bigger program over time. We do stabilize families because the food that we give them can offset other expenses in their budget. And we support breastfeeding, and we connect families to other services. So families come in because they know they'll get some good foods and some offset to their budget. And then we can help them with finding other services. We also provide nutrition education.
So I'm going to stop you for a second here, Wendy. I want to come back to that important point that you made. So Community Action is a multi-service organization, and we've got lots of direct services, energy assistance, the seniors and disabled veterans services. We help people sign up for other programs. And what you said is this is helping people pay their other bills. So if a family can get WIC, about how much money might that be a month for fresh food and or nutritious food from the grocery store with their WIC dollars?
At the moment, it's nearly $100 per client. So if a family has 2 people on the program, that's nearly $200. And that's because Congress has allowed us to provide extra fruits and vegetable money. They're getting between $25 and $45 per client for fruits and vegetables, along with the protein foods and the dairy foods.
And that's per month.
Per month, right.
And this is so important in Skagit County. Everybody who's here has been in a workshop with me knows I'll always bring it back around to affordable housing and the lack of it. But because people in Skagit County are paying too much for rent and there isn't enough affordable housing, and because the prices of everything else is going up, important programs like our food bank partners providing free food and WIC providing a couple $100 a month for nutritious food, that helps families save their money to be able to cover a different expense. And what you were saying, Wendy, is because Community Action's WIC program, we've got partner WIC programs at other organizations, but at Community Action, one of the benefits is there's those wraparound services. Tell us a little bit about the other things that Community Action helps WIC clients access.
Well, we do an assessment of what the needs are for each family, and depending on their needs, and sometimes, they don't know. Young families don't know what's available. So we do get them into Head Start. We get them into early learning situations. If there's an issue with the development of the child, we connect them to energy programs because that's a huge help for them, and a lot of them don't know about that.
And you have a staff member who actually goes to some families' homes, a home visiting program. Is that right?
Yes, United Way has provided money for us to have a family home visitor. So many of our families have severe transportation problems and they have language problems. About 30% of our families do not speak English. We do have staff here that speak Spanish, Mixteco, and Ukrainian. And we are seeing Ukrainian refugees coming into WIC also.
So I've got your brochure up, which shows that a family size, if it's a family of 4, they can earn almost $4,300 a month and to qualify for WIC. And so we did put the link to WIC in there, and it's just a phone call away because folks don't actually have to walk into the office. Why don't you just say a little bit about our locations, but how you're delivering services now, Wendy?
Because of COVID-19 and because young children can't be vaccinated yet, the federal government has allowed us to do all of our services remotely. So we're doing services by telephone, which the families love. And we do have our reception open and people can walk into reception and get services there. We also try to provide diapers for our families. So they'll walk into reception and get diapers. And we work with Diaper Bank of Skagit County to be able to do that.
Where are your locations?
We are here in Mount Vernon. We still have a separate database for Anacortes clients, but we don't have a physical location in Anacortes right now. And then we're also on the Navy base serving Navy families. So our families are primarily families in their early careers. So their wages are not really high and our income qualifying levels are pretty high. Something around 60% of the babies born in Skagit County are eligible for WIC. So a lot of people are eligible that they might not know that they are.
So I'm just going to stop you there, Wendy. That a lot of people don't realize that in the United States, the average American is going to experience poverty 3 times in their life. And if we haven't, somebody else is going to experience it more. And you're saying that first time for Skagit County, the first time is at birth, because 60% of babies are born on Medicaid. So by definition, they are low income. And can you just say why breastfeeding is such an important part of what WIC does? How does that lead to ending poverty?
Well, breastfeeding is very protective for the babies. It's also a way of bonding with the families. But a baby is not able to fight off any kind of illness for the first couple of months of life. They can't mount their own immune response. And breastfeeding does provide that immune response for them. So the mom's immunities go through the breast milk. Also, there are growth factors in the breast milk. There's like 3-4 times the number of items in breast milk that there are in formula. And well, in addition to that, right now, it's really hard to get formula. So we're spending a lot of time working with families who are not able to buy formulas at the local stores and trying to assist them in help getting whatever formula they can find. There's a real shortage.
It is a crisis for many families. And one of the things that Community Action can do, again, because we're a larger backbone organization, is that we can help direct donations, unrestricted funds, because WIC has a pretty tight budget. We can help purchase some of the items like formula and wipes and some of the things that families might not be able to get with their EBT, which we are going to talk about in a minute. Well, lastly, I just want to do a shout out because I know that there are a lot of partner organizations who are working on early childhood. I'm going to show you our website. Under About Us and Coalitions, there's an important coalition that WIC is a part of that is called the Children's Council of Skagit County. And if anybody would like to know how to get involved with early childhood development, as Wendy was saying, and one of the reasons we have WIC is because one of the highest indicators of kids getting out of poverty is graduating high school. One of the indicators of graduating high school is starting school ready to learn. One of the indicators of being ready to learn is having good nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life and the first 5 years. So thank you, Wendy and WIC, for not only helping feed families, giving them good nutrition, but also being an upstream solution to poverty.
I want to thank Ruth too. I know Ruth is on here someplace. She donated during the pandemic, donated face masks for us. We do get lots of donations, baby blankets, clothing, money for wipes is wonderful. Money for diapers or diaper drives. We really appreciate all of it.
Jason has a question. Is the baby formula shortage due to supply chain issues? I've noticed that grocery stores are locking up their formula.
Well, there is theft of formula, and that's maybe a part of it. It's the supply chain shortage, and then Ross, Abbott Abbott company makes Similac, and they had a huge recall, and they are providing Similac to something like half the WIC programs in the United States. And so that recall really left a hole in what we could provide for our families.
So it wasn't just a supply chain issue, it was actually a recall of formula. So product that was out there had to be recalled.
Right.
Well, Wendy, we're going to move on. Thank you so much to our WIC program. And now I'm really excited. Is Stephanie with us? Stephanie Semro, hello. Wave to us from way upriver. Whenever I hear anyone talk about Skagit County as the Valley, I think of my colleagues in East County, and I'm like, Skagit County is not just the Valley. So Stephanie, I know we're not going to talk about all of the East County Resource Center programs today, just the meal program. But I want to start by letting you do a shout out to the staff at the meal program.
Our staff is amazing. Right now we're cut down to one down there, but everybody pitches in. So we have all our whole East County staff goes down and helps with trying to get meals prepped and out and ready to go.
So the East County Resource Center is one county-owned facility that's managed by Community Action. And we're talking about a meal program that's at another county facility called the Concrete Community Center. And this is a place where other programming can happen. And Community Action has been providing a meal program. Tell us what it looked like. If I walked in there, what did it look like before the pandemic? And then what did it look like during the pandemic? And what does it look like now?
Well, we're back to the same as what it was prior to the pandemic. And during the pandemic, we were serving meals out a window. So we had a card table set outside the window, and the window would prop open, and us in the back prepping and putting meals in boxes and shoving them out the window and making sure that everybody got a meal and was fed a good nutritious meal, at least one out of the day.
And so this is a meal program that is free for those who need it. Donation is requested. If I walked in the door now, what does it look like? What does the room look like? What do the meals look like? And what describe the people and how they interact?
If you walked in there right now, you would first encounter Chandra, and she would take an intake and get your information, explain how the meal programs run and how we, gladly accept donations. And then you would walk into our dining hall and see people sitting down and conversing and having while they're eating lunch. And you would walk up and grab yourself a tray and then go through the line and be served a meal with salad and a vegetable and main dish, and get your drinks and choose a spot to sit and be able to converse with whoever's at that table.
And about how many meals a day, a week, or however you measure it, how many people are you serving now, and how has that changed over time?
We are serving anywhere between, I would say, 30 and 50 people a day. And
is this people of all ages?
It is a majority of seniors and adults right now. Sometimes during the summer, we get children coming in with parents as well. And so occasionally, yes, it is people of all ages.
And from what I've heard you say and what I've seen as testimonials from folks there, it's not just about getting a hot meal and having that reliable, good nutrition. It's also about the social connection. Can you talk a little bit about how important that is, not only for the people you serve, but for your volunteers as well?
It's huge, because that is I believe that getting people in to socialize, especially if they're elderly, is a huge factor in their health and mental state throughout the rest of their life. And it gives them that chance to share their experiences with someone younger. And some of them, it is only their only nutritious meal. And our volunteers, they're also up there in age, and it gives them a way of feeling like they are still part of something and being able to contribute, and giving them a reason to get out of bed and get moving in the morning and carry on.
Well, I know that our number one partner in getting this work done is Skagit County, the county commissioners and the staff at Skagit County. Any other partnerships that you'd like to shout out that make the meal program what it is?
Cole does amazing stuff.
So you are one of the meal programs that is supplied by the Food Distribution Center.
We are, and I could not recommend anybody that has not gone there to help should definitely go and help. I've only been able to do it once, and not only is it a great amount of fun, but it's an eye opener to
You learn
see
a lot about the food system.
Yeah.
So another plug for volunteering, and I'm going to give a little hint at the end that we're going to give you other ways to be involved. And one of them includes a tour of the Food Distribution Center that's coming up later this month. So thank you, Stephanie, the whole East County team, our partners at the county and the Food Distribution Center for keeping people having good nutrition and connection with one another.
Oh, Liz,
So-
there was a question from
Oh, sure.
Sandy about the volunteers in the kitchen who help keep everything running.
Stephanie, do you want to just say a few words about the volunteers in the kitchen and how awesome they are?
They are amazing. They do help keep everything going, especially right now while we are short-staffed. So if we didn't have them, we would be floundering around. But because of our volunteers down there, they help get the meals out on time and help so people don't feel like they're running around with like a chicken with their head cut off. So
Oh, wait a second. Are you hiring? Should we say that too?
we are not hiring, I don't believe,
okay.
at this moment.
Okay.
I'm not sure where we're at with that. I think we've got enough volunteers that are carrying the weight while we have some people gone.
Well, great work, East County. Thank you so much. And we're going to turn it over now to our colleague, Dulce. Please introduce yourself, your name, your title, and tell us about Basic Food.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dulce, and I'm the Resource Center Manager here at Community Action. And Basic Food. So what is Basic Food? Basic Food is also known as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, and it helps people buy groceries. And what this means is households that are eligible to receive these benefits get an electronic benefit transfer, or also known as an EBT card, with monthly benefits to buy food.
So when I was growing up, this is what we called food stamps.
Yes, also known as food stamps. Yeah.
Well, so I know that Basic Food is a program of DSHS. What's Community Action's role with Basic Food?
Community Action's role in that is we're able to help families who are wanting to apply for the benefits. We help with the application in office, and we also do it over the phone. Just to make it a little bit easier, because we know that a lot of times, it's a long wait on the phone to talk to someone with at DSHS. So we're hoping to, save clients some time and helping them in applying for those benefits.
And about how many folks a year or how many households a year are we able to assist with Basic Food?
I don't have a specific number for a year, but for the month of April, we did 61 applications. And we have to give a huge round of applause to one of Wendy's staff members, who is just amazing. And she's a staff member who does those home visits, and she goes to clients' homes and does the application with the client in their home. So she's also plays a huge part in our numbers, in our monthly numbers.
So it's, again, not just that clients have to come to us, but the Community Action is going to those families and helping them sign up for all of the benefits that they might be able to access. And I know, Dulce, that Community Action made it a goal a few years ago that no matter what a client comes in asking for, or which program they get connected with, basic food is one of those things that we screen for. And it again is because any money we can help households save means that they've got a little bit more of their income to put to other basic needs, or to the high cost of housing. Would you like to share with us something about eligibility, like who qualifies?
Who qualifies? So right now, a household of one has an income limit of about $2,265. And if I could share my screen, this is actually, just let me prep it and then I'll share my screen. So this is a brochure. So the maximum benefit for a household of one is 250, but on average, it's about 209. And this is an average of back in 2019. So it varies.
So it's based on income and it's capped for the number of people in the household, but somebody might get less because their income is a little bit higher, for example.
Exactly.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about basic food, or you think is important for people to know if they want to tell friends and family about this?
Yes. Card holders can now purchase groceries online. So some vendors that are participating in this are Amazon, Walmart, and our local Safeway. They're participating. So you're able to order your food on their app and you're able to purchase those groceries as long as it's food and it's eligible under, the guidelines under the card holder. You're able to purchase that, and you're just, one thing that you might want to call the vendor is asking about that, that fee of having someone do that for you, and what that fee, if they might be able to get rid of that fee for you because you're a card holder. But yeah, you're now able to purchase online, which is
That's great. Getting it easier and easier for people to access these resources. And again, is this something where somebody has to walk in the office, or you can help them over the phone?
we can help. They can walk in the office or they can call.
And Dulce, please put the phone number in the chat. And we're lucky to have our data guru, Sandy York, is with us today. And she says that about 4,000 individuals were screened for basic food assistance in 2021. So way to go, Community Action. That's all our staff working together to make sure everyone's getting access to what they need. So we are going to turn it over to more Q&A here, but I would like to share with everyone the next opportunity to learn about Community Action's food programs is we have a tour of the Food Distribution Center in Cedar-Woolley on Tuesday, May 24th. And Cole picked this day. Why is this a fun day to come and see the Food Distribution Center, Cole?
It's a fun day because earlier in that day, we'll actually have one of our monthly shipments that comes in. So that's the one day a month that we get a big shipment of the dry shelf stable TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program goods.
The federal program.
USDA federal food. So it's a nice way to see something different.
Yes, because the Food Distribution Center is in and out. So somebody could come 2 days later and the shelves may be bare because you've given it all to the food banks. Okay, so that's 4:15 to 5:15. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's 4:15 to 5:45 on Tuesday, May 24th. And it's a weird time because we want to make it convenient for people who might be coming or going from work to be able to drop in. And if you signed up for this event today, we will send you the registration link for that tour. You can also come by and say hello to us and learn more about the Food Distribution Center at the Mount Vernon Farmers Market on May 28th. It just says Farmers Market on there, but it is the Mount Vernon one. We do want to let you know, we love volunteers. The Food Distribution Center needs those food box delivery drivers for the boxes that go to seniors, groups, whether that's your work team or your civic club or your church. Can you tell us about how you engage groups at the Food Distribution Center, Cole?
Yeah, we engage groups a couple of different ways. So one is on our day that we build those senior food boxes. So we have a little production line going on. So that's a great way to engage a group, because it's usually like 5 to 6 people. Really does that work pretty quickly. And then the other way is on any of our regular delivery days. So by that means when we're bringing in 1 or 2 semi-loads of food. So it's all got to come off and then get sorted appropriately for all the different food bank orders. So those are our 2 big group activities.
As Stephanie was saying, it really is fun. Who needs a gym membership when you can volunteer at the Food Distribution Center? And it's a great way to learn about the emergency food system in Skagit County. We also sometimes engage volunteers and interns with our Women, Infant, and Children program. And then, of course, we would love your donations online, or if you are a member of the Skagit Valley Food Co-op, you can donate your dividend to us between now and July 29th. Are different ways that you can get involved. And Isabella, will you throw the link into the chat for our How to Help page that has volunteer in-kind donations and cash donation information, please? So with that, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left, but are there any other questions that weren't answered in the chat, or would somebody like to ask a question of one of our fabulous food people? No more questions? Well, let me just say thank you to everyone who's here. I know a lot of our partners are here today who we couldn't do this work without. And just thank you to everyone who has a place in their heart for hungry families and households in Skagit County, because you are making a difference. We are building better systems together, and we're getting more food out now than ever before. So thank you everyone for being here, and especially to our staff and volunteers at Community Action in these programs.
And a shout out to all those community lunches and Meals on Wheels and everybody. And the 2 people in my house get Meals on Wheels, and there's people all over the county that are getting these services that people might not know about, but it is so essential. And thank you to everybody. It's hard work.
Well, Doris, thank you for mentioning that, because one of the big successes of the last year that I forgot to mention is we finally have a new, we've got the freezer and the refrigerator is on the way, Cole. And it used to leak and there was ice on the floor and it was dangerous, but those Meals on Wheels meals were some of the things that were being stored there that were at risk. So thanks to our funders, the foundations and donors who made that possible, and also purchase of a new truck. If only there were any trucks to buy, we would really like to buy one. We've got the money, but we can't find the truck. So if anybody can do anything about supply chains, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.